Remember the last time we read? Yeah, that was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now it's 7 o'clock at night, baby. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we're reading pages 101 to 120. It's actually 103 to 120 because I read a little bit more than I was expected to last episode. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. Margie was awake the next morning when the phone rang. It was early and he hoped Jake would sleep through the ring so he'd surprise him. "Hi, Evan," he said. "Hi, Margie. How's my little man? He's strong like his dad." Evan laughed. "Flattery doesn't work on soldiers." Margie grinned. "It's worth a try." "Yeah, one of the worst ones so far. I still don't understand why medicine is supposed to make him better makes him much worse." Hopefully one day they'll find a better treatment." Margie heard someone shout on the phone line. "Everything okay?" "Sure, guy's letting off some steam." "You ever do that, Evan?" "What, let off steam?" "Me? No, steam is pretty much what keeps me going." Margie laughed. "Is there anything you need to tell me?" Evan asked. Margie tried to remember what he had to say at the point we had sure to talk to Jake. You never knew when these calls would be cut short. "I already emailed you about the chemo, so no, you're up to date. And you? What about me? How are you holding up?" "I'm fine. Well, I'm not fine, but I'm fine enough to be thrilled to death if everyone else, namely you and Jake, were as fine as I am." "Well, that's fine then," Evan chuckled. Margie laughed again. She loved that this man on the other side of the world was the man who had the life and death situation pretty much every day. This man with a very sick son, a widower, his soldier, always managed to make her laugh. Margie stood and headed toward Jake's room. "I assume you're already ready to talk to him?" she said to Evan, raring. Margie pushed Jake's door open and lifted his head. She pointed at the phone in her hand. "It's your dad." Jake pushed himself up and grinned. His eyes flashed and hid her old brightness for just a second before pain dimmed them again. "Here's your little man," Margie said on the phone. "You take care of you," Evan said. He didn't respond. He handed the phone to Jake. "Hi, Dad." Margie adjusted the pillow behind Jake so he could relax and still remain sitting more upright. She smiled at him and then handed the dad. "Yeah, Margie's been mean to me as usual, really mean." His laughter rang out as he left the room. That night, Jake forgot again and tried to tell Simon about his conversation with his dad at the appointment in Mr. Betterman. And as usual, Simon said, "I want to hear about what real Jake did today." "Oh yeah, right." Jake wondered why he couldn't remember that, but he'd worry about that later. "Today, my dad and I went to the movies," Jake said. He figured the real Jake would have a dad who was home and do things with him. "Really? What'd you go see?" "It was a sci-fi movie about robots." "Oh, that sounds great. I went to the movies too and I had popcorn. Did you have popcorn?" "Yeah. I bet you got butter all over your face, right? And on your clothes? And did you get some popcorn stuck in your teeth?" "I sure did." "Yeah, I did. Right between my two front teeth." "Cool. What else did you do today?" "My friends and I built a fort out of sticks in the backyard." "Same friends you played with yesterday?" "Uh-huh. It was hot, and we needed more shade, so we built shade. I mean, not really. We built a fort, though. I love building forts. I built one, too. I got a splinter. Did you get a splinter?" James found his index finger and said, "Yeah, I did. I still have these little brown marks under my skin on the end of my finger where I got the splinter once. That's another badge of honor?" "Yeah, exactly." Margie stretched out a twin bed nestled under the eaves in the cave-like room. She always wished she was taller than 5'3" but she'd never. Ever since she started working for Evan, her size about served her. Evan's bungalow was small, and a living room, a tiny kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a bath on the first floor. There was an itsy-bitsy room with slanted ceilings upstairs that even called a half floor. He'd been using a room as an office, but he cleared it out and put a twin bed and an almost doll-sized bureau, and a nightstand for Margie when she took the job. The furnishing was sparse, but the room had built-in shelves and cabinets. Also, like the window that looked out of the upper branches of the apple trees in the backyard. One of these trees reached within a foot of the window. Previous year, she'd been able to pluck an apple tree from this tree. The trees made her feel as though they lived in a woodland tower like a cartoon princess, Jake said she resembled. Right now, most of the window was obscured by a pestle fan blasting out nearly enough air into the little room. Margie's hair blew over her head and struck in her skin. He hated having the fan on high speed because it was almost as loud as a droning as an engine. The sound made her nervous. She was afraid she wouldn't be able to hear Jake if he called out. Margie picked up her phone and tapped the recording tab. "Jake barely ate anything this evening, just a couple of crackers. If I didn't know better, I think he hated my cooking." He laughed and found was forced. "But I do know better. When I first came here, Jake couldn't get enough of my mac and cheese and my lasagna," she sighed. "But he hasn't had an appetite in a while." Margie paused and listened. She heard a baby monitor she held on her nightstand. It was toggled at high volume. Did Jake just make a sound? No, nothing. Margie set her phone down and ordered herself to go to sleep. She wondered if she could apply for a change. The next night, Jake told Simon about the pizza he and his friends ate after they ran through the sprinkler again. "I had pizza too," Simon said. "Did you get pizza sauce all over your clothes and all over your face?" "I sure did." Jake laughed. "Yep, I still have some here." There. He thought he tasted tomatoes and garlic at the corner of his mouth. Wow, he was getting good at imagining things, because all he really had for dinner was a couple bites of scrambled egg and 2 bites of toast. He still felt bad about all the food he wasted. When he had said to Margie, she said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll box it up and I'll send it to needy kids." That made him laugh so hard he snorted. He could just imagine a package of scrambled eggs going through the mail. "It would spoil," he said through his giggles, "and that would be bad." Margie said. Very, very bad, they said together. I tell you what, Margie had begun. How about we send some of your allowance to a place that helps feed kids who needs food? That'll make you feel better. Jake felt a surge of excitement. Yes, good deal, Margie had said. So, what else did you do? Simon asked. Jake immediately felt bad. He was thinking about Margie while Simon was here. Well, after we had pizza, we went to the twins' house. We have air conditioning and we were all really hot. What did you do in there? We finger painted. Can you believe it? I've only done that since I was really little. Oh, I love finger painting. All that cool sloppy paint. I did that today too. And I got different colored paint under every one of my fingernails. Did you do that? I bet you did. Jake smiled and found the rainbow colors under his nails. Oh yes, I did that too. Now my fingers are a rainbow. Exactly, mine too. Jake was going to say something else about the paints, but instead he yawned. You getting tired? Simon asked. A little. That's okay. I can leave so you can go to sleep. But hey, remember what I told you. When you're well enough to walk around and do stuff, then you can come and open the cabinet door. I'll be here waiting for you when it's time, okay? Okay. Margie stepped out of the front porch to clear her head. Before she went to bed, movement in the Henderson's yard startled her, and she whirled to peer through the spotty light. Sorry, Gilligan Henderson said softly. It's just me. Gilligan stepped into the light and cast his porch lamp. And she was staring pale blue bathing suit under a darker blue t-shirt, and she was drenched. So Margie suddenly realized they could hear a measured spitting sound of the sprinkler in Gillian's yard. Were you running through the sprinkler? Gillian grinned. Small, tall, and broad-shouldered. Gillian was weather-faced and flyaway sun-bleached hair of a farmer's wife. Even though she was married an accountant, she once told Margie she got rugged look from the running after half of the neighborhood children. Because Gillian was a stay-at-home mom with infinite patience, most of the kids tended to congregate to her house. And despite having a house full of kids every day, Gilligan was always asking Margie if there was anything she could do to help. Margie figured Gilligan was at least 15 years older than Margie, but they've become good friends. Fun is not just kids, Gillian said. I was also hot. I was sure I was going to combust. Margie laughed. I hear you. And then the kids are up and they don't want mom in their sprinkler. It's embarrassing, she mimicked her daughter's voice. Are they really that age already? I think mine are born at that age, Gillian said. Margie laughed. Hey, you want to join me? Margie looked down at her t-shirt and shorts. Why not? When she hesitated the baby monitor, she pulled it out of her pocket and looked at it. She didn't see it that wet. Gilligan saw Margie staring at the baby monitor. Wait, here. She trotted toward her house. Margie listened to Gillian open and close her squeaky screen door. She watched the car go by and then looked up to try to find the Big Dipper. He spotted it seconds before she heard Gillian's screen door creak again. She looked forward to Gillian's two-story craftsman. Gillian's house shared stylings of Evan's, but hers was probably 4 times bigger. Gillian jogged over. Here, she managed to Georgie zip paper plastic bag. You'll still be able to hear it, but it won't get wet. You're brilliant. I'm a mom. Working the problem is my specialty. Margie dropped the baby monitor in the bag. Come on, Gillian said. Margie let Gillian lead her to the adjacent yard, and the two women began running through the sprinkler like little girls, back and forth, in and out, twirling and skipping. They played in the water, danced all over the soggy grass, dirt squishing between their toes and water spraying in their face. Margie could remember last time she felt so light and free. Nearly half an hour, they staggered to Evan's front porch and collapsed, dripping on the steps. Margie realized her muscles were more relaxed than they had been in months. For several minutes, she breathed and dripped in silence, and Margie started to cry. Gillian put her arms around Margie and pulled her close. It sucks, Gillian said. It just sucks. He's a great kid. Yes, Margie said. He is. The next day, the bus before noon, someone knocked at Jake's window. Jake heard his name be called. He craned his neck to see around the fan. The sun's rays spirited to the window and advanced nearly all the way through the room. So I trickled down to Jake. Jake, you in there? Grimacing, Jake pushed himself up. Is that you, Brandon? Yeah, that's me. I came to see if you wanted to break out. Brandon's long face appeared just about the window. The screen distorted his features. Oh, Brandon, I can't. I'm not supposed to get up without help. I'm not sure I'm supposed to go out. Yeah, but what if you wanted to? Brandon pressed his face into the screen and squished his nose and made a silly face at Jake. Jake laughed. He looked toward his room's half-open door. He wasn't sure that Margie was, but he knew she was there someplace. If she had to leave the house, she got Miss Henderson to stay with Jake. And Miss Henderson always gave in to give him a hello hug, and then she arrived. Margie didn't leave often, though. Mostly she had things delivered at the house. If she went out, he went with her, because most of what he had to do was take him to the doctors and treatments. Come on, Jake, I haven't seen you forever, Brandon whined. I miss you. Jake looked through the window again, even through the screen. You could see Brandon's blonde hair sticking straight up. He smiled. I missed you too. Brandon was Jake's best friend from school. They used to be inseparable. For the first year, the doctors found Jake's pine nut. He went to school as much as he could. In spite of his headaches, when he had brain surgery to try to get the tumor out, he had home for several weeks. Then he went back to school again as soon as he could. For a year before, he'd gone to school about half time. Now school was impossible at all. He was too weak and sick. But maybe he could go out with Brandon. Wouldn't that be cool? Jake was already dressed. He refused to sit around in pajamas or underwear. Even in the worst days, he wanted to be dressed. So he went in jean shorts and a tan t-shirt. He didn't have any shoes on, but he knew slip-on sandals were there, just under the bed. He could wear those. Are you coming? Brandon asked. I thought we could go to the arcade if you're tired and weak, or we can just do the racing games if you want to sit down, or... Jake loved the racing games. Okay, he was going to go for it. All right, give me a minute, Jake said. Okay. Brandon pulled back the corner of his mouth and stuck out his tongue against the screen. Then he said, I'll be out here melting. If you take too long, I might be a puddle. But I'll be here. Just scrape me into a bowl or something and we can go. Jake laughed. Okay. He sat straight up and waited for the room to settle around him. He blinked to be sure to tell echoes from the real thing. He had double vision for so long he'd learned to adapt. But sometimes when he reached something like for a sock, he'd reach for a sock that was an echo instead of the real sock. Pretty sure he could tell what was real and what wasn't. Jake swung his legs over the side. All four of his pale legs were bony. "Come on," he encouraged him. "Hold me up. I'm not that heavy." His legs apparently disagreed because the first time he tried to stand, he fell back onto the mattress. Barely. He nearly fell to the floor, but caught himself in the side rail of his hospital bed. Then he first got into the hospital bed, he'd been upset. "I won't sleep in that. I'm not dying," he yelled at Margie. "Of course you're not," she said, "but you're a good kid, and you know if something will make my life easier if you don't mind doing it." Then she put it away that way, how could he refuse? And now he was glad he had the bed. Using the side rails, he was able to prop himself upright until his legs remembered that it was standing on your own. He felt like a baby horse in seen once on TV. It was wobbling all over the place, but horses stood, and so could he. Jake concentrated. He made himself stay upright, even though his head started pounding and pressure built up behind his eyes. He looked down, spotted the sandals, and fished for them with his right foot. No way was he going to be able to lean over. He could put him on the floor to be sure. Bending his knee to move his right foot around made his knees almost give out. Almost, but not quite. He was able to snag the right sandal and put it on. Then he planted his weight on the sandal. He gave him more stability, and then began poking at the other sandal with his left toe. Eventually, he snagged the one, too. From the outside the window, Brandon called a strangled cry. "I'm melting." "Shh," said he hissed. "Margie will hear you." Brandon laughed. Jake pushed away from the bed, letting go of the railing. His body swayed like a skinny tree in the big wind, but he didn't fall. He could do this. "Oh, I forgot to tell you," Brandon said, appearing in his window. "Hey, you get out of bed? Good job." "What'd you forget to tell me?" Jake asked, and he got up with the nerve, and he took one stiff, hesitant step. He almost fell again, but he was beginning to think it wasn't a great idea. "Oh, I forgot to tell you about my brother's wagon," Brandon called. "I thought you might need a ride to the arcade." "Well, I could make it easier for sure." Jake could take it to the window, and then Brandon could help him out in the wagon. And Brandon could pull him. The idea Jake gave it a little more confidence. "Why didn't you say so?" he called out as he took another step. This time he was a little steadier. "The sound has melted my brain. It's running out of ears. Ew." "Yeah, exactly. Hurry." Jake couldn't take another step. He stayed up. He took another while he was standing. One more. Still up. One more. He was clutching the windowsill, looking out at Brandon, who was pretending to sword fight an imaginary opponent, using a stick. "Hey, there you are." Brandon started the stick at the window. "Here I am." Jake braced his hip against the windowsill and reached out an unset screen. He could push it out. His head went a little fuzzy when the double screen got a little difficult to separate out. He managed it, though, and he gave the screen what he thought was a real shove. Brandon lifted the screen out. "Score." "Oh, this is so awesome," Brandon said. "Yeah," Jake agreed. "Okay, give me a second. Can I hold your arm or something?" "Yeah, that would help." Jake managed to plant his butt on the ledge. Holding on to the window jab with his left hand, he reached for the right hand open through the window. Brandon took his hand. "I've got you," he said. Jake hoped that was true. Leaning back against the window jamb, he shifted his weight and he swung his right leg through the window. He got a little too much momentum and he almost threw his whole body through. But Brandon steadied him. His headache got work and his stomach started to do flips. He tried to ignore both. Concentrating, Jake was able to swing the other leg through the window. This time he was with a little more control. "Okay, now just turn your a little more and slide out of the window," Brandon said. "I'll be sure you don't fall." Jake paused and peered out of the world he saw a little of these days. It was so bright and hot and dry, just as it had been the last time he looked. A roasting breeze stirred the elm's branches, and they made scratching sounds against the house's burnt brown siding. Jake heard the twins giggle across the street, and he suddenly felt giddy, like he was sneaking out of school. Not like he had ever done that, but it was also felt like he was going for presents before Christmas. He had done that. He found them too. When Christmas came, he was let down because he already knew what he was getting. It was a lesson. Sometimes waiting was better. "Are you coming the rest of the way?" Brandon asked. "Oh, yeah." Jake steadied himself at an open window, took a deep breath, and then slid out. If Brandon hadn't been there, they had ended up heaping on the ground, but Brandon was true to his word. He caught Jake and held him up. "You good?" Brandon said. "I'm okay." Brandon looked at Jake's face. He frowned. "Whoa, I didn't know." "Know what?" Brandon shook his head. "Nothing." He looked around as if he couldn't help. "If I help you to the tree, can you lean on it until I get the wagon over here?" Jake saw a bright red wagon parked on the sidewalk. "Okay." With Brandon holding a tight grip, Jake began to walk, but the nausea got worse, and his leg got weaker. Suddenly, Jake collapsed and vomited all over the dry grass. Brandon jumped back in time to avoid getting spewed. Jake was glad for that. He didn't even look up to his friend. He was too embarrassed. He felt like he was used up, some sort of like empty toothpaste tube, all squeezed out and limp. How was he going to get back up? The answer to this question came flying around the corner of the house. It was Margie, running to Jake if she knew he needed her. "What in the big wide world are you doing?" Margie's voice got higher than Jake had ever heard. Brandon took a couple more reverse steps, distancing himself from both the vomit and Margie's obvious upset. Jake heard the screen door screech and slap. Miss Henderson came running around the house. "I just saw what was going on. What can I do?" Brandon's eyes got really wide. He looked from Miss Henderson to Margie, who was suddenly as pale as Jake felt. Margie bent over Jake. "Come on, you silly boy. Let's move you just a little this way." Miss Henderson joined him. "Let me help." "Thanks," Margie said. Together the women lifted Jake and pulled him away from the mess. Sitting him was so his back was against the elm tree. His bark felt rough against the thin material on his t-shirt. Jake pressed his hands against the tree's root and fell onto them. Miss Henderson squatted next to him. He brushed her fingers across his forehead. Margie straightened and pointed his finger at Brendan. You. Brandon winced. Margie glanced at Jake and Miss Henderson. Then she took a deep breath and turned to Brandon. She lowered her voice. I'm sure you meant well, but you needed to go home. And don't try this again. He's not... She cleared her throat. He's not well enough to do that now. I'm sorry, Brandon said. I know. Now get. Margie softened her voice with a soft smile. Brandon ran to the wagon and grabbed his handle. He ran down the sidewalk with the wagon rattling behind him. Jake watched until Brandon was out of sight. He was watching the fun and freedom run out of his life. Margie squatted next to Jake and Miss Henderson. What are you thinking? I thought I could be the real Jake. Miss Henderson looked away. Margie twisted her mouth and didn't say anything. You wait right here with Miss Henderson. I'm going to go get the wheelchair, okay? Okay, promise? Pinky swear, Jake said. Margie smiled and curled her pinky finger around one Jake extended. You just aged me several years. So you're like, what, 100 now? Hardy har, Margie said. That would make me 200, Miss Henderson said. She and Jake laughed and Margie trotted toward the house. Simon came as soon as Jake closed his eyes later that evening. Even though he was going to sleep later than usual, his little failed adventure was drained him completely, which sucked. Hi, Jake. Hot today, huh? So what did you want to do today? Simon asked. Brandon and I were going to go to the arcade, Jake said. You did go to the arcade? Oh, yeah. Yes, we went. Jake smiled and curled up. What did you do there? Simon asked. We had so much fun, Jake smiled. We played all the racing games. I love the racing games. I love those too. I don't want one of those racing games today, too. And I won enough tickets to a bunch of pencils. Did you win? I bet you won. We did. We got smiley face racers with my tickets. Oh, yeah, those are fun. I got those too. I like them because they cheer me up when I'm feeling down. You feel down? Sometimes, but not very often, though. I'm busy having fun. Yeah, me too. So, hey, did you get a slushie at the arcade? Simon asked. I got one. I got grape. It turned my tongue purple. Would you get one? Jake laughed. He stuck out his tongue and imagined it was purple. Yes, my tongue's purple too. Purple power, Simon said. Purple power, Jake repeated. Jake couldn't believe how much he really felt like he'd gone to the arcade the day. He sure had. Oh, we did a game where you step in the light squares. Me and Brandon were just busting a move. I'm totally impressed, Jake. I mean, I'm pretty bad at those things. When I dance, I'm all spastic and stuff. Jake could hear the clothes rustling and feel breathing sounds coming from the inside of the cabinet, like someone was doing a dance right now. You know what's funny? Simon asked. What? I did the dancing too. Even though I'm a total spaz at it, I was into it, and I stepped in a shoelace and ended up breaking it. Have you ever done that? I did that today. No. So you know what it is? Badge of honor, Jake and Simon said in unison. Then they laughed together. What other games did you play today? Simon asked. I was playing a shooting game, the one where you're shooting bad guys like robbers and stuff. Brandon wanted to shoot aliens, but didn't know how to shoot aliens. I like aliens. I wouldn't do the hunting one either. I like shooting animals. I really like animals. I'm with you on that. Jake smiled, thinking about the arcade games. He'd like to make them forget his needing to see Simon. Are there any other friends in the arcade? Simon asked. Yeah, Jake said. A few more. Did you play pinball? Simon asked. I have my problem. It's an addiction. All in all, that's the end of that. I just like this Simon character a lot, you know? It's like, I like Simon. I like reading Simon's thing. He's a very positive character. I'm sorry, yep. I think that was loud enough. Oh, man. I just like Simon, you know? Simon's a chill little character. So we actually read to 122 today. Again, on accident. I really don't mean to, but it's just, Simon's such a, I love the character, you know? Anyways, that means next episode we are reading 121 to 1, which is going to be 123 to 140 now. But yeah. I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. People like Be Efficient. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And these episodes are getting shorter and shorter, with this one ending on a recording of 18 minutes and 40 seconds. But yeah, hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time.